What are you doing, taking my picture?
There's a videotape.
Oh, yeah?
Okay.
This is an interview with Harold Bennett, the Cambridge Public Library, the 16th of April, 2004. The interviewers are Wayne Clark and Mike Russert. Could you give me your full name, date of birth, and place of birth, please?
My full name is Harold Lee Bennett. I was born in White Creek in 2/10/1923.
Okay. What was your educational background prior to entering military service?
Graduated from high school.
All right.
1939.
Do you remember where you were and your reaction when you heard about Pearl Harbor?
I heard about Pearl Harbor. No, I don't know where I was. But shortly, I mean, you decided you had to go. And I went. I mean, it was one of those things back then. You knew you was going and you went, and there was no...
So you enlisted?
No, I was drafted.
You were drafted, okay. I know January of 43.
Yep.
Where did you go for your basic training?
Fort Dix, New Jersey.
How long were you there?
I left there in April, I believe, and we went to Missouri. And from Missouri, we left there in late August, I believe. They sent us to West Point. And supposedly we were going on a boat in New York City. So the captain came in, and I was a sergeant. So he said, get 6 men, we're heading for the port. But he didn't tell us it was the port of Los Angeles. And that's where we went. And we were there about a month. They didn't know what to do with us when they got there.
Now you were in a unit?
Yes.
What was your unit?
Signal Service Battalion. And I was a cryptographer. Learned that. And so when we got to Port of Los Angeles, they had orders to report to a Captain White. He didn't know we were coming. He didn't know what to do with us. We were there. He says, check with me every morning, and we did for a month. Then when we went overseas, the 7 of us, each one went on a separate boat, a freighter, the Kaiser freighters. Each one went on a separate boat. Why, I don't know. We all wound up the same place, Calcutta. But we were...
So were all of you cryptographers?
No.
I thought maybe they split you up because of that.
No, they were repairmen and radio guys. And
were there other GIs on your ship with you, or?
the ship I went over on was a freighter, and right up on the deck they had a little bit of a bunkhouse built right on top of the deck, and he was 12 bunks in it, and he was full. I don't know where the other guys went or what they were supposed to be doing, and they didn't know either. They got to Calcutta, and then we went on up. I joined my unit again, and we went up through Assam and over the Ledo-Burma Road the whole stinking way.
Now the road was built already when you got?
No, they were working on it.
Were you working on it at all?
I didn't work on it, but I was there in the message center all the way over here. You know, went into Ledo first, then we went to Missionah. And the Ledo Road went all the way down through Burma and hooked onto the old Burma Road, which wasn't too promising either. And then when we got down where the Burma Road was, they flew us all back to Ledo. And we drove the first convoy all the way to Kunming. 1,190 miles, and it took us 21 days to drive it. That was when they flew the hump with all the stuff. They couldn't drive over it for a long, long time. And then when the monsoons come in there, you couldn't drive it anyway.
Mm-hmm. Were there ever many attacks by the Japanese while you were on the road, or?
Had a lot of strafing attacks, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And snipers.
Mm-hmm.
The snipers are all over, everywhere. Every building almost, all the way over. They'd get rid of, well, the roofs on them, most of the buildings were thatch. They'd go up in them thatch roofs and tie themselves right in there. There wasn't much you could do about it, only if you had the right kind of ammunition, you could stick one in the thatch and set it on fire.
Mm-hmm.
Then they'd come out. But yeah, Missional was a tough one. Merrill's Marauders and the Flying Tigers. And
now you said you were in an operation with the Merrill's Marauders?
we went in with Merrill's Marauders,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Could you describe that for us? Did you ever see Merrill himself?
Yes, I saw him, but not. He wasn't in my unit.
Mm-hmm.
Still, no, yeah, still was the first ones I saw. And
What was your opinion of him?
he was good. He was an older man. He knew what he was doing. He wasn't one of the fresh ones just out of school. He'd been in for years, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was tough, but he was good. Yep. No, I don't know.
Well, could you describe the action when you went in with the Marauders?
Just a heck of a lot of jungle fighting. That's about what it was. I mean,
Now, what kind of weapon did you carry? You carried a weapon,
yeah,
most likely.
I carried a .45 Colt revolver, and most of the time we had the .30 caliber carbines. And a lot of the guys we were in the Signal Corps, so we set up stations and tried to get radio contact back to somebody, you know, and sometimes you could, sometimes you couldn't. A lot of the guys had the old Thompson 45 machine guns, and they had bigger machine guns up in the Marauders and all them, but didn't have these modern things you got today. No. But I think really the heat, the rain, the snakes, bugs, and disease was the worst thing of the whole thing, all the way through.
Now, I saw in this, you wrote down that you were ill for 6 months. What happened?
I had Amoebic Dysentery. I got it in Nanjing, China. And it only affects light-skinned people. And it is caused by using human waste as fertilizer. Mm-hmm. And that's what they all did over there. But it didn't affect them because they're dark-skinned. I went in the hospital in Nanjing, and I came out of the hospital over here in Rome.
So that was toward the end of your
enlistment? Yeah, that was the end. That was from late October till March, yeah, all the way through.
Now, you said you saw the Flying Tigers. Were you based near them, or?
Well, yeah, within a mile. Yeah, they're airport, whatever you want to call it, just a landing strip, really, cut out of the jungles. Yeah. They went into Missional with Merrill's Marauders. And the Marauders after that broke up, and I believe they called them the Macs, what was left of them. They went separate ways all through the jungles and taking care of a little bunch of people, Japs here and there and all over, you know. But we saw a lot of interesting people too. You know.
In what ways were they interesting?
Well, like the picture of those Naga, little Nagas there. They couldn't talk, but I don't know, they were just interesting to see.
this page.
Here, I'll show.
Well, if you sit down, I can bring it over to you.
It was right above the headhunter thing. Where that is.
Aren't those the people?
Here they are. Yes, okay, if you hold this up.
Naga tribesmen, you know, up in the mountains.
Now, these are the Nagas that you were
Yeah.
talking about.
Yes.
What did you find interesting about them?
Oh, just the way they lived, I guess, and what they ate. And they mostly ate roots, and they had no way, they didn't have any guns or ammunition. They couldn't kill anything to eat, and of course their cattle are sacred, so they ate bugs.
Now, could you tell us about this gentleman that you came across? Where did you meet him?
He was on the Burma Road, way up in the stinking mountains somewhere, and the convoy was stopped, and he come walking down all the hills.
Now, what are these things that he has with him?
They're his tribesmen, I guess.
No, the hanging around his waist.
They're skulls.
So he was a headhunter.
He was a head of the head-hunting tribe. I suppose they were his prizes, how many people they beheaded or whatever they did, you know. Yep.
Thank you. Now, when you went into China, how long did you stay there?
Oh, I was in China about 5 months, I guess. We went from Kunming, which was just, well, that was the end of the Burma Road. We went clear across China, all the way across. I came out of Nanjing, which is right on the, almost on the shore, coming this way, east. And we took surrenders, small Japanese armies and all, and then we wound up with the first Japanese army in those pictures.
Here, I'll hold this up.
And we took the, well, this is most of it right here. I'm right up here somewhere. That's the surrender of the first Japanese army in Nanjing, China.
Now, when was that?
September 7th, 45. Well,
How many Japanese surrendered to you? Do you remember?
I don't know how many was right there, but there was about 2 million in China.
Okay.
We saw the big boys. There's one of them.
Now, this is one of their officers, or is that
That's the Chinese.
Chinese?
Here's your Americans and your Chinese. They flew 7 of us and our crew into Nanjing and supposed to set up a message center and a radio contact and whatnot back with everybody. And actually, when they let the 7 of us off the plane, here we stood. We had 45s, nothing else. And there was the Japanese army. What are you going to do? You know, you stood there like a dummy. And all of a sudden, the big general walked over, and I was the highest non-com there. He took off his bandolier, his sword, his gun, and handed it to me. And I lost it when I went in the hospital. Somebody took it. Because that sword handle, whatever they call them, was probably 16, 18 inches long, and it was set with emeralds, and it came off. And inside the handle was the name of every Japanese general that was in China, all written in there.
And somebody stole it on you.
Yeah. When I went in the hospital, of course, it stuck out of my barracks bag, like, you know, here it is. And then there it was. When I got my barracks bag back, it was gone. Yeah.
Now, what did they do with the Japanese forces that surrendered to you?
Honestly, I don't know. I got in the hospital and I don't know what they did with them.
Now, did you have any dealings with the Chinese army at all?
Oh yeah, we was with them all the way through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What were the relationships like between the Americans and the Chinese?
They were all right. We both kept separate.
Mm-hmm.
And if you wanted to find them, it was no problem. You could smell them. Because they ate, oh hell, what do you call it? Just like we eat potatoes. They would,
rice?
No.
Oh.
Garlic?
Garlic.
Oh, garlic, okay.
They would have great big tubs of garlic boiling. You could smell it for a mile. If the Japs wanted to find them, all they had to do was use their nose, you know. Yeah, that's what they ate, that and pork mostly. They always had pigs with them. If the snakes didn't eat the pigs, the Chinese did.
Now, did you, these were the nationalist forces. Did you ever have any contact with the communist forces at all? Or?
No. No.
Okay.
No, we kept pretty much separated, you know. We were one camp, they were another camp. They might not be far apart, but you didn't intermingle any.
Mm-hmm.
They did their job, and we did ours. Yep.
So you ended up getting sick from some of the food
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And when were you shipped back to the United States, to the hospital in the United States?
In December
Of
45.
45, okay. So you were in the United States when the surrender, the end of the war took place?
No.
Oh,
Did that happen?
oh,
in
I'm
August?
sorry, I'm thinking of, December 45. Do you remember hearing about the dropping of the atomic bombs?
Oh, yeah.
What did you think of that?
I thought it was a great thing at the time, get the damn war over with and get home.
Mm-hmm.
That's what everybody thought, you know.
Yes. Do you remember hearing about the death of President Roosevelt?
Yes.
What were your feelings about that?
That was a blow to everybody, I believe. I think probably everybody thought a lot of him, you know. They put him in.
Mm-hmm.
It was a blow. Yep. Yeah,
So,
I was a cryptographer, so I heard most of that stuff first, you know.
mm-hmm.
And at that time, we had two machines in the whole India area, but nobody had broken the code. And I had one of them, the other one was in New Delhi. So if we could get radio contact, I could send a message to New Delhi and they could send it to Washington.
Mm-hmm.
Through radio. But, you know, you get back in those mountains and those hills and valleys and stuff, and radio contact wasn't all that good.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you could, and a lot of times you couldn't, you know.
Now your radios, of course, worked on batteries.
Yeah, sure,
How often
batteries
did you have to replace those?
a hand crank
Yeah.
thing, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
nothing like there is today with them satellites up there and bouncing something off from.
How long did batteries last out in that kind of weather and climate?
Not very long, depending on how much you used them, of course. But
Mm-hmm.
in the rain and the wet, and you couldn't keep them dry. And there's no way of keeping everything dry in them monsoons. Even yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But malaria was, I'd say malaria took down 50% of them. It was a big, big deal. And another thing that took out a lot of our troops was suicide, believe it or not.
Oh, really?
They'd get to the point they just couldn't take it, and they'd walk out, and that was it. Yeah.
So you were discharged from the hospital?
No, I was discharged from Fort Dix.
Oh, okay, yeah.
They sent me from a hospital out here in Utica, Rome, down to Fort Dix for my discharge.
Okay. I know you were discharged in March of 46.
Yes.
Okay. When you returned home, did you make use of the GI Bill at all?
There wasn't any that I know of back then. That didn't come in till after Korea or something, did it?
Yeah, I thought it came in after right the end of World War II.
Well, maybe it did.
Yeah.
No, I didn't.
You never did?
No.
Did you use the 5220 Club at all?
No.
Did you join any veterans organizations?
I joined VFW. So.
Did you join that right away, or?
No, not first 2 or 3 years I didn't, but I did, yeah. Joined it maybe 1952 or something.
Did you ever stay in contact with anyone that was in service with you?
Yeah, I did for a while. They're like me, they're all getting old.
Did you ever go to any reunions or anything like that?
I don't think our outfit ever had a reunion that I know of. Yeah, there was one radio operator that lived out in Cape Cod. We went back and forth for a few years. And then he died. Well, he was older anyway. He was probably, he was in his 40s when he was in the service. Both of my radio operators were in their 40s. One was from Texas and this one out here. So they were, 20 years older. They'd be over 100 now.
Yes. How do you think your time in the service changed or had an effect on your life?
Just that I missed 39 months, the best years of my life probably. When I come back, I didn't know anybody. You take a kid that was my age when you went in there and like 19, and you come home and they're 22 or 23, they've changed, they're married, you don't even recognize some of them.
Okay.
But I went back where I started doing carpenter work and made a life of it.
Could you tell us about this? You could hold the top, I'll hold, or okay, if you can.
Tell you about it?
Yes.
Well, it was issued to me for being at the first Japanese Army surrender in Nanjing, China. And as far as I know, there was only 7 of them ever issued. The 7 guys, they flew in there and left.
So, okay.
And the front of that album is a presidential citation. I don't really want to.
Oh, yes.
Can you video that so you can read it?
Yes.
Can you?
You can get that close.
No kidding.
Okay.
Now, where did you wear that?
Where? You
Yes.
could wear it anywhere you wanted to. It was on your fatigue jacket.
Where did you wear yours?
Where? All the way through until your jacket went to the devil.
Did you wear, you said you wore that on the back of your
Yes,
jacket?
in the middle of your back.
Now that's made of leather, isn't it?
Yes.
And this one, that's made of silk. Did you buy that overseas, or?
I think they were all issued to us sometime or other on some of the places you went, or some battle or some other thing. I don't know why.
Okay. And could you tell us about this patch?
This patch was issued from going from Calcutta up all the way through Assam to the end of the Ledo Road at Ledo.
Okay.
Oh, you have another one that's a leather one, too, I see.
This one, I think this is the same idea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one's made of leather. That's
Yeah.
kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, well, thank you very much for your interview.
You're welcome.